So we've just heard the news that Kell Brook is going to be fighting Gennady Golovkin sometime in September in the O2 Arena in London. This has come as a very, very big surprise to myself because I didn't think for 1 second that Kell Brook and Golovkin were going to get it on. I was thinking more Kell Brook fighting Thurman, Errol Spence, somebody in the 147 division because it's such an exciting division at the moment. And it's a similar kind of shock that I felt when I heard that Amir Khan was going to fight Canelo Alvarez. Now, a lot of people are going to, criticize Gennady Golovkin because he's a 160 pounder and Kell Brook is fighting at 147. But at the end of the day, Kell Brook was struggling to make 147 anyway. So it looked like he was going to move up to, junior middleweight. So, but nevertheless, 160 pounds, he's gonna look big, but I think it's gonna favour Gennady Golovkin the most. I think Kell Brook is a world class fighter. He hasn't fought any big names save for Sean Porter when he won the IBF title. So it's going to be a very interesting fight. If you want me to be honest, I think Gennady Golovkin is going to be too powerful for Kell Brook, and I think Gennady Golovkin is going to win this fight. But again, you've got to rate Kell Brook for stepping up to the plate and saying, look, I want to take this fight. So props to him for doing that. Now, I did hear Kell Brook, as soon as Amir Khan signed to fight Canelo Alvarez, Kell Brook was saying to Eddie Hearn, get me Gennady Golovkin. And a lot of people thought that was a joke, and a lot of people thought that, he was trying to upstage Amir Khan for wanting Gennady Golovkin, but it seems that he was actually serious. So we should see what happens. In regards to Gennady Golovkin fighting other people at 160 pounds, I mean, you could argue that he could have fought Quillin, he could have fought whoever. But that's not happening now. So let's just focus on the task at hand. And I think that for him to come into the UK, he's definitely going to sell out the arenas in the UK. And I think it's going to be a good money fight for GGG. And it will also be a big money fight for Kell Brook. So in the business capacity, it makes sense for him to fight Brook than it does for him to fight any of the other 160 pounders. Now, that's all I'm thinking about, really. But that leaves Chris Eubank Jr. Now that is quite interesting because what is happening with Chris Eubank Jr. in this situation? Because I actually believe that Chris Eubank Jr. was going to fight Gennady Golovkin, and I thought that the contract was going to be signed. We heard that Gennady Golovkin signed it, and then he was waiting for Chris Eubank to sign the contract. And he was saying, Chris Eubank hit back on social media saying, look, I've got my pen in my hand. When I see the contract, I'll sign it, and all the rest of it. And I thought early on in the talks, they said, you've got 48 hours to make this decision. Obviously, it didn't happen within 48 hours. And I thought, okay, they're probably, crossing the T's and dotting the I's, which is why they haven't spoken out publicly, Team Golovkin, that they're not going to fight Chris Eubank. So, the only reason they haven't said anything about not wanting to fight Eubank is because they're still trying to, go over a few loose things and tie up the loose ends. But that wasn't to be. That wasn't the case. Here we have Gennady Golovkin fighting Kell Brook. But what happened to make the talks between Eubank and Golovkin go stale? Because I feel it's quite strange. I can't help but being a Eubank fan, feel that this is definitely not going to look good on him at all, because in a way, you kind of embarrass yourself, don't you, in a way? You say that, you want to fight Gennady Golovkin. You've been ranting and raving about it for such a long time. Eubank Senior has been, giving interviews saying he can beat him. Chris Eubank saying, I've been taking hits by heavyweights and I can take it, and, if by the time Golovkin throws one punch, I'm going to throw three. And when he fought his last fight, he put a warning out and he said to Gennady Golovkin, I'm coming for your belts and all the rest of it. And I thought it was going to happen. So you have to ask yourself, what was the situation? What caused it to go sour? Now, I think that, Chris Eubank Jr. does want to fight Gennady Golovkin. I don't think it's a question of him bottling it. I think he does want to fight him, but I think the politics in the background prevented that fight from happening. And if you want me to be honest, without really investigating all the facts, just speaking off the back and off the top of my head, I think that Eubank Senior might have nosed it up or messed it up for him, because when he had, I can't remember who he fought. Was it after after his recent fight against that Tom Doran, whatever his name is? Chris Eubank Senior was saying, "We want to fight Gennady Golovkin, but it's up to Sky to make the fight happen." And as soon as he said that, I thought, hold on a minute, that's a problem. There's a problem here. As soon as Sky need to make the fight happen, but isn't the ball in your court? Isn't the ball in your son's court? So obviously, Chris Eubank wants people like Sky and the rest of the world, it seems, to dance to his tune. But that's just not the way it works, because your son isn't A-side. You can't expect the promoters and the big TV channels and companies to bow down to you and do everything you want, because you're not A-side yet. And that's the reality of it. You can start demanding terms when you're A-side, when you can do more for them than what they can do for you. That's when you can start saying, we want to make the fight on our terms. I don't think that Chris Eubank Jr. is big enough to, demand those kind of things or make those demands. And I think that's what's really stopped that fight from happening. I don't know whether it's because Chris Eubank Jr. wanted to I heard many things that, he wanted to take over the promotional side of it. He wanted to charge, more money on the tickets. He wanted more money than than they were offering him to take the fight. I mean, look, I don't know. I haven't really done too much research into it, but all I know is that with regards to Chris Eubank Jr. and Chris Eubank Senior fighting Gennady Golovkin, I think that Senior might have messed this up, to be honest. And it does make you look a bit silly, because here you are ranting and raving about it, and then all of a sudden, out of the woodwork, Kell Brook comes along and says, "Look, I'll take the fight." Just get what you get given. Eubank should have just taken what he was offered and just took the fight. Now look, I'm no expert on boxing politics. I'm not an authority, but for Kell Brook, who's 147 at 147, for him to just step in and say, "Look, I'll take the fight," it seems like it was reasonably easy for Kell Brook to take that fight and to make the fight happen. So if it's easy for Kell Brook to make, what makes it so difficult for Chris Eubank Jr.? Why is it complicated when it comes to Chris Eubank Jr.? It wasn't so complicated for Kell Brook, so something must have been in the way. They're both promoted by Eddie Hearn, so what was the problem? I don't think it's Eddie Hearn's fault. I don't think it's anybody else's fault. I believe it was Chris Eubank Sr. taking too much of a hands-on approach and demanding too much, and him messing it up. So it does look bad on Chris Eubank Jr. because now it looks like some people are going to turn around and say, "Oh, you were bottling it," especially the Chris Eubank haters. They're going to be saying, "You bottled it and you're a bottle job," blah, 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 blah. But I don't necessarily think that's why that fight didn't happen. But either way, where did Chris Eubank go from here? That raises question marks over the situation with Eddie Hearn. Will he continue to promote Eubank? Will he have sour grapes? Will he be upset with Eddie Hearn for not making the fight happen and, making it with Kell Brook? Who knows? Either way, Kell Brook, Gennady Golovkin is going to be a great fight. I think it would have been a great fight for Chris Eubank Jr. I think, Eubank would have lost the fight, but I think he would have put up a hell of a fight and it would have been a toe-to-toe exchange and it would have been really good. Anyway, let me know your comments in the section below. Any updates, I'll try to bring them up to speed. But, Gennady Golovkin, Kell Brook, can't wait. Signing out. Please subscribe.